We are here on top of the Golan Heights, a beautiful day. JD, behind us we can see the abandoned city of Quneitra and the new city of Quneitra over there. Over there is Mount Hermon that is shared between Israel and Syria. Over there you can see the attempt of the Syrians to pump all the groundwater so they can have them instead of them flowing all the way to the Sea of Galilee. You can also see the ceasefire line. You can also see it's running all around, and all the agriculture that you see is all Israeli. And this is the chance for us to talk a little bit about the importance of the Golan Heights to this particular place. So going back in the Bible, this is the part where the half of the tribe of Manasseh used to be, all the way to Mount Hermon. Manasseh was split, half of it crossed the River Jordan and went inside, the other one stayed here. So biblically, this is part of what the children of Israel had at that time. And then, of course, the place moved hands, and eventually, by the return of the Jewish people back to their land, it was not in our hand. And when the British and the French carved the remains of the Ottoman Empire between themselves and had the Sykes-Picot Agreement, basically the Golan Heights was part of the French mandate, part of Syria, whereas the rest of the country was part of the British mandate that was preparing a homeland for the Jewish people. So this place that we're on, together with 15 kilometers further to the west and down to the south, was a platform from where Syria used to attack Israel almost every day from 1948 until 1967. And then, of course, in 1967, we took over. 1973, they tried to gain it back. And in 1981, we annexed the Golan Heights, and now it's part of Israel. As far as the Israelis are concerned, it's a legitimate part of Israel. The Israeli law is being enforced here. And right now, we are in 2018, and the question of who is the sovereign or the rightful owner of the Golan Heights is rising once again. So JD, who are the parties right now that are disputing the Golan Heights? I mean, that are actually putting a big question mark on the Golan Heights legitimacy?
Well, it begins, I believe, with Syria, who is the catalyst, specifically Damascus, for what we know will be the fulfillment of the Ezekiel 38 war, which, interesting, does not mention Syria.
Correct.
Syria is conspicuously absent from the list of nations by their ancient names in Ezekiel 38, which leads most to believe, present company included, that the Isaiah 17:1 prophecy specifically concerning Damascus becoming a ruinous heap, so much so that it's uninhabitable. And that's it. Right?
You're looking at the outskirts of Damascus over there. Everybody, I want you to look as far as you can see over there, and you can see as far as you can look all the way. Look at my hand. This direction, over the behind that modern city, behind it, to the left of it, you see the outskirts of Damascus. It's 60 kilometers from here. This is 40 miles away from here. And it's Damascus already. Damascus is still standing. And JD said so eloquently, Damascus cannot remain standing or inhabited. In other words, if Damascus is still standing, then Isaiah's prophecy has not been fulfilled yet.
That's right.
And if Syria is not mentioned in Ezekiel's war, then that city must be destroyed before. And that's why now we are talking about, okay, so JD, what do you think is really could be the catalyst, the cause of not of Ezekiel, but of Isaiah 17?
This is the question that many ask is, will the destruction of Damascus, Syria come by way of the hand of Israel? And there are those who believe that it will. And it will happen suddenly. And once that happens, then it's just a matter of time before Russia, Iran, Turkey, and the other allied nations will then invade Israel exactly as Ezekiel 38 says. Others believe that it's very possible that it will happen from within, vis-a-vis Russia, Iran, and Turkey, who today are at the ready. And it could very well be that once they're done with one Bashar al-Assad, that's it. It served its purpose. That's why they're in Syria. Do you think they're in Syria because they want to keep Bashar al-Assad in power? No. They're there because of Israel. They're there because over 2,500 years ago, the prophet Ezekiel wrote that they would be in Syria to invade Israel. That's why they're there. And that's why, by the way, they're not going anywhere.
Yeah. And it's interesting because it's a question that a lot of people are asking. What we know, and we know much more than what they know, could it be that they already know what we know when it comes to, I mean, JD just said, look, they must be here because they have to invade Israel. But could it be that they don't know yet why they're here? And that's a question that we can ask. What they think today is the reason for them to be here might not be tomorrow the reason. And people ask me, why is Russia, of all countries, is in Syria right now? And I can specify three reasons. And none of them, by the way, has to do with Israel yet. And we will get there. And definitely, I believe 100% it's because of Israel. Don't get me wrong, as we just discussed. But remember, for Russia, there's always been a desire to have warm water harbors for their fleet. 2/3 of Russia's fleet, or 2/3 of Russia's harbors, are completely frozen 8 months of the year almost. And so they can't maneuver, they can't move their big fleet out of their harbor. They must have some warm water harbors. That's, by the way, the reason for other wars such as the one in Crimea. Now, another reason is the plummeting, of course, prices of oil, and they need some more energy sources. And the third one is the third one is, of course, and what is the third one, JD? Because there is a third one.
I'm going to categorize natural gas. You know, you might remember, if I can think the year was 2008 when Russia invaded Georgia, and we're not talking about Atlanta. Yeah, we have some people from Atlanta here, right? So, but the reason why was because Putin wants to control the natural gas flow in the entire region. Now, subsequent to the find of
I just found out what the third one, but go ahead.
Oh, that
was no. That's a good
answer.
one. No, that's a good one. It's a great one. Yeah, go ahead. It's a great one.
Blood have not revealed this to you.
Yeah. No, you're right.
The natural gas, though, I'm going to put it in with the oil. I like how one so aptly said it in Ezekiel 38, verse 13, which we've been talking a lot about lately as it relates to Saudi Arabia, specifically protesting, specifically the questioning of this invasion on the part of Saudi Arabia and Tarshish and the young lions thereof is, have you come to take a spoil? Booty. One has suggested that you just take the SP off of spoil and you have oil. But subsequent to the find of natural gas and with it oil here in Israel, and the cost to produce oil in Russia, it especially with the prices as low as they are, it's not that they will invade to take it. They have to. Their very survival is at stake. Okay, what's the third one? We're dying.
I know. I just remembered. Okay. By the way, on the what bus was a green bus? I told them, please remind me there are 3, and they did not.
Wow.
Okay. So
see how you are.
But honestly, I never told them what the 3 are. I just well, the third one is, and of course, when was it that Russia entered Syria? Months after it invaded into the Ukraine and took over Crimea. Remember, all the Russia needed to divert the attention from what it did to the Ukraine, and came because Obama didn't want to help Syria with boots on the ground. Russia says, we will. We will be the policemen of the world here in Syria. You don't want? We will. We're the good guys. Look, don't punish us for Ukraine. We take care of the world. We take care of conflicts
Amir,
around.
did you hear about what happened just today?
Yes.
And I had about the
Ukraine.
the two.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think.
might wanna go ahead and-
Well, the Ukraine
This
and
is the fourth thing.
yeah, no, still it's within the third.
Yeah, no, it is.
It's the Ukraine. Okay, the World Cup is over. The attention that or the quiet industrial quietness that Putin needed is no longer needed, and now he can act once again in the Ukraine. And he just rammed one of his boats, rammed into a Ukrainian boat, and they injured several Navy guys, but they seized 3 naval ships of the Ukraine and took more than 100 naval officers of the Ukraine in custody, in captivity, basically, hostage.
It just happened.
It just happened yesterday.
Yeah.
My point is this. Now, Putin is basically saying, I better take what I can before it's too late. Ukraine is not part of NATO. NATO is not required to come and help the Ukraine. So if we can do it now, let's do it now before it's too late. By the way, grab as fast as you can before others do that. It's the name of the game here. And we're watching it. So Russia, I don't know if you know that, but our border here is patrolled by Russian military police. Russia is in the border of Israel. And we don't even... Look, 2 days ago, the Israeli energy minister said, besides the fact that he announced the deepest and the longest oil pipe, he also said, Iran wants to have a border with Israel, but Iran doesn't have a border with Israel. And if they want to have a border with Israel, we will not allow them to have a border with Israel. In other words, Iran is thousands of kilometers away from here, but they are bringing their troops over here to the border of Israel, and we cannot afford that. We cannot afford that. And now the question is, who is going to destroy Damascus?
Right. That's
Nobody
the question.
knows.
Yeah.
Nobody knows. The Bible doesn't tell us. But Israel will not hesitate, if needed, to stop the Iranian entrenchment here in this place. And it's going to be very, very interesting, because I believe, we believe that that's the trigger of Ezekiel's war.
Yes. It's the catalyst.
Yes.
So I hope you don't mind. I wanted to actually talk to you about this before, but
In private? No.
No,
I'm joking.
I know.
Look, they're all happy here. Hi there. Yes. About what?
We are asked, you and I, you more so than myself, about Psalm 83.
Correct.
Will you take just a moment and
Yes.
address this,
Once
please?
and for
Because
all.
I know there are some of you who have even asked me, where does the Psalm 83 prophecy /war/prayer even, where does that fit into the picture?
Okay.
And Amir explains it better than anybody I've ever heard.
Okay.
So,
Thank you for the compliment.
take it away.
Thank you. Okay, Psalm 83. It's by the way, it's a psalm that is being read by every Israeli military rabbi in every day of Memorial Day that Israel has for our fallen soldiers. Okay, it's okay. Now, let me explain something. Psalm 83 is a picture of the birth of Israel, because remember, what was the name of this country until 1948? Since the perverted Roman Caesar, Adrian, since his days of 135 AD until 1948, the name of this place is Palestine, Palestina, or may I say it was called Syria Palestina originally, Provincia Syria Palestina. And the reason was because he wanted to remind the Jews, whom he hated so much, that he can name their place after their Old Testament foes, the Philistines. It had nothing to do with Palestinians. It's the Philistines that the land was named after. The Philistines, of course, in the time of Adrian did not even exist anymore, but he wanted to humiliate the Jewish people. Now, so for almost 2,000 years, the name of the land is not Israel. What is the first thing that David Ben-Gurion is doing when he decided that he's going to name this country? By the way, even the President of the United States of America, Harry Truman, and I'm not talking about the carrier. I'm talking about the real Harry Truman. When he was about to recognize Israel as a state. He didn't even know what the name of the state is going to be. In the original press release, he said the state of the Jews, or the Jewish state. And then you see he crossed and says the state of Israel, because the name was not known yet. And when David Ben-Gurion was standing and saying, I hereby declare the state of the Jews, the Jewish state, and it will be called what? The state of Israel. And Psalm 83 says, do not keep silent, O God, and do not hold your peace, and do not be still, O God, for behold, your enemies make a tumult, and those who hate you, God, have lifted up their head. They have taken crafty counsel against your people, and they consulted together against your sheltered ones, and they have said, come, and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be remembered no more. The war that was all about the name and the fact that we became back a nation back in its land is the War of 1948. And then he talks about where they're coming from. And all the countries that he's specifying here are the countries that borders with Israel. Now, who are we talking about? Jordan and Lebanon and Syria and Egypt. And he even says Assyria will help them, which is Iraq. And Iraq only participated in the War of Independence. And he says, and the inhabitants of Philistia. So from within, those Arabs that call themselves Palestinians, from outside, all the neighboring countries. And why do they come? To cut us off from being a nation, because we were just born as a nation, and that the name of Israel will be remembered no more. Now, fast forward, 2018, we have peace with Egypt, we have peace with Jordan, and Syria doesn't exist almost, and Lebanon is in a deep crisis themselves. And I can tell you one thing, the Arab world, the Muslim world is now running to have relations with Israel right now. And if that's not enough, Psalm 83 is talking about the reason for the war, the name of Israel. Whereas Ezekiel speaks about the spoils. Ezekiel says it's not because of who they are, it's because of what they have. So the swing from being such a poor country in 1948 and just holding on to our name to being such a prosperous country in 2018, and Russia is not here because Israel is a poor country. Russia is here because they want what Israel has and Israel developed. So I believe personally, and that's not a matter of salvation, I'm not making a big deal out of it, but I believe, if you ask me, Psalm 83 was fulfilled in 1948, and we watched within our generation. This is the generation that shall not pass away. Our generation we did not only see the birth of Israel, but the prosperity of Israel, to the point that people will come and gang all around us in order to take what we have.
Can I just comment one thing?
Yes,
and
please.
you,
Yes.
Yeah, one last thing.
I didn't say one last thing. Come on, I haven't said that yet. I just said I wanted to say one thing. You know, all of the list is specific, by the way,
Yes.
in Psalm 83. And there's an interesting delineation in verse 6 of Psalm 83. Listen to this. The tents of Edom, Jordan, the Edomites.
Hello?
And the Ishmaelites. Now, here's what's really, that's Egypt.
Hello?
And not only the Ishmaelites, but how about this? The Hagarites. This is Hagar. So just because you're a descendant of Hagar does not necessarily mean that you're a descendant of the Ishmaelites. This is Egypt. You have Egypt, Jordan, and then finally, my birthplace of Lebanon, Tyre. Every single one of them, Egypt, Jordan, Lebanon, and I'll throw in Syria, none of them are listed in Ezekiel 38.
Hallelujah!
Wow, that was...
Yes! Yes,
Preach it, brother.
and look what it says. Even Assyria came to help them.
Yeah.
It says
Has
even
joined.
Assyria has joined them.
And Iraq's not mentioned in there.
Exactly. Thank you. And that's the point. I'm not making a dogmatic thing out of it. This is really not a I can kill someone for that, but it's not a matter of salvation, or really, I wouldn't even debate anyone about that. That's what I believe, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's the truth. But but really, what I really want you to understand is that Ezekiel is a different chapter, in our history. And we've gone through the days where Israel was almost annihilated, and Israel lived, all throughout the 1940, end of the 40s and the 50s, and even the mid-60s. We were on the verge of annihilation every single day. And when the Syrians owned this piece of land in the 1950s and 60s, we didn't even know if tomorrow we will be able to see it. We didn't know. That's why we sent the spy, Eli Cohen, and that's why we had to know what's going on there in order to be able to survive and know in advance what they're planning. And so now it's different. It's different. They're torn from the inside. They are torn from the inside, and the other two have peace with us. It's different. And now Israel is in a different level internationally. And just so, again, I do believe there's a big difference. I always say, take the 83 of Psalm and make it 38 of Ezekiel, and that's where we are today. Pastor JD, how excited are you standing here and looking at this?
So, you and I...
Yes, I want them to see. All right, yeah.
Some people say I get in their way. Is there any truth to that?
Yes, all right.
You and I, even as recently as, let's say, a year ago, could not say what we are saying today. And certainly as we stand here today, you have Russia, Iran, and Turkey right there.
Right over there.
And you have Damascus on the cusp of being destroyed and uninhabitable like never before in recent history, in recent memory. Am I still okay here?
Yes, you're fine. They love you here. Look.
The microphone?
Oh,
can you hear me? Can you hear me? Now you can? Okay. Okay, I'm going to start over. So,
one last.
To answer your question, Amir,
Yes.
It's surreal in a way, really. Mm-hmm. And I heard it said this way: the first time you see Israel, you see it with your eyes. The second time you see it with your heart. Yes. Now you take it from there. As many times as you come to Israel, as many times as I have been up here, never before have I felt like I feel today, and as excited as I am today.
Wow. And I hope all of you back home and also here, I hope you understand, your family thinks you're crazy.
Yeah.
And if you told... Wait a minute, I have to turn the camera, so I want everybody to see you. Okay, it's pretty dark because the sun is behind you. Yeah. But can you say hi? Actually, can you say hi? Wave. Wave. Okay, so to all of your family members, this is Syria, right here. Okay, they are looking at Syria right now. I just want you to know, they are 4 miles away from Syria right now, and they are really having fun. Okay? Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that the world will try to convince you not to come, because the world knows how much the enemy knows how blessed you will be. Mm-hmm. I believe that coming to Israel strengthens your faith, deepens your love to the word, deepens your understanding of the word, and he will do whatever it takes, even using your family members to call you meshugas, crazy, or majnoon. Yes, or
that's,
the Arab
crazy
word, yes,
in Arabic.
Yes, majnoon, loco, or whatever you want. They really what? Microphone. Yes. You're crazy. If you haven't heard it yet. Okay, so the world will try to tell you that you're crazy. He'll use your family members, your relatives, your church members. Sometimes even your pastors will think you're crazy. And I'll tell you something, folks. There's nothing better than having that step of faith, coming to this land.
Yeah.
And I want to tell you something. You'll go back different. And you'll go back and you'll understand that how come I didn't do it earlier.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can I say, yeah?
Yes, please.
I was
Oh, just be around here. Yeah, stay here. Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
the Jew doesn't take from the
No,
Arab, the
exactly.
Arab takes from the Jew. So we're clear. I was talking with somebody and I made the comment, and this is something that has been a litmus test for me and has served me well over the years, but I know I have made a very, very good decision by virtue of my only regret being that I didn't make it sooner. I know that I have made a good decision when my only regret is that I didn't make it sooner. I would venture to say that there's not one of you here today that has absolutely no regrets that you came to Israel.
Yes, yes,
Even to the Syrian border.
yes. So I'm gonna.
Watch out!
No, but
You just gotta be on your toes. You never know.
I did bring.
Watch out for them Arabs.
I did bring my phone because I told you I will ask for some action. And for some rockets to be flown towards us. And I just, no, just, I'm joking. Some of them are, I'm not sure I'm staying here right now. No, folks, I just want you to know that the flower fades, the grass withers, but the word of the Lord will stand forever. And I want to tell you, when everything eventually will settle, you will see that only the things of God remain standing. And I just want you even more so to be excited that none of the promises of God, not to Israel and certainly not to all of us, will ever be left unanswered and unattended. And you need to know that coming to Israel is looking at the picture of God's faithfulness. Amen. Israel is a picture of God's faithfulness. I believe so. And yes, they're not perfect. In fact, they're not even following him yet. Mm-hmm. But he does his part. And when the time comes, they will understand their mistake. You know what it says in Hosea chapter 5? It says, I will return again to my place until they acknowledge their offense, and in their affliction they will earnestly seek me. The tribulation is for Israel's salvation, as we always say. Yes. And they will, unfortunately, through that, maybe finally understand that he loves them and he returns for them. But until then, Israel needs your prayers, Israel needs your support. And until then, you need to understand that maybe the world gave up on Israel, but God never did. And when Ezekiel in chapter 37 talks about how he will bring them out of the grave, I believe it, the graveyard of Europe, of the Holocaust, he says, Israel say, our hope is lost, our bones are dry, and we ourselves have been cut off. But I say to you, O my people Israel, I'm going to take you out of your graves, and the Lord said, I will put you on your own soil, and I will take you out of your graves, and I will bring you back to the land of Israel, your own land. And God says, I will do it. It's not any country. It's God. And when the time comes, and we're talking about Ezekiel, it's not going to be any country that is going to save Israel. It's not going to be any country that is going to receive the honor and the glory. It's going to be the Lord himself. Now, we're not sure. What, JD, people ask, even on the bus, what do you think will cause America not to stand by Israel for Ezekiel's war? Because obviously, no country stands by Israel when that happens.
Well, I'm going to answer it this way. I'm going to answer it with the way that I pray will be the explanation for the absence of America. You already know where I'm going, right? Come on. Let's be honest, right?
Stay
I mean,
here.
it would.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. That was.
Come over here.
That was so mean.
Yes.
I know. That was bad, wasn't it? I'm sorry.
We hope that his wife is not watching right now. Did you hear it? Told you. Wait a minute. More, please. More. That was a boom, and that was an explosion right over there. Go ahead.
Let's be honest with ourselves. Wouldn't the rapture of the church explain the absence of the United States of America? You know, I when we were at Jan's conference, I think it was this year, it might have been last year, it might have been both. I talked about how I'm becoming increasingly convinced that the sudden destruction that comes down upon them,
Last year.
that was last year, and they will not escape, is a contrast with what Paul says about us being the we. We will escape. We who are alive and remain will be caught up, and it will come suddenly. The key word is suddenly. So while 1 Thessalonians 5:3, they, not we, they are saying peace and security, sudden destruction comes down upon them, not us, and they shall not escape, as a woman travailing in labor. So I know it could be argued that this is wishful thinking, and that's okay. But truly, it would stand to reason that the best explanation for the absence of America is the rapture of the church.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. And I hope it's going to be the best explanation for the absence of all the other countries as well. For all the
No,
rest of you.
right, yeah.
Yes. Great. Folks, this is it. You just heard the boom. And by the way, you're going to hear more of those. It's the normal daily routine for the last 7 years. We're entering the 8th year of that war. It's a devastating war. They've been killing each other by the hundreds of thousands. And Israel, up until not long ago, up until a week ago, had a hospital here where we treated, as the ambassador said, we treated all of those villagers from all over this area. We would take them in ambulance into Israeli hospitals inside Israel, treat them for a month or 2 or 3, and then bring them back here so they could go back to their family. In one case, a daughter was born to a pregnant woman, and she named her Sarah. And she said, I want to give her a Hebrew name because of what the Israelis did for us. We never, ever imagine in our wildest dreams that the Israelis will give us life and our own people will kill us. Yeah. And that's a testimony to what Israel is all about and why we're here and who we really are. And while the media will try to always portray the good as bad and the bad as good and the evil is good and the good is evil and the darkness is light and light is darkness, that's the spirit of the world. You know, woe to those who do that. So I don't envy the Medianites, the media. I call them the media. I don't envy them. They have a special place in hell where it's a bit warmer, I guess. But I can tell you one thing, you know, you're going to see the same thing in America, where the people that do good are being... You know, how was Elijah called by Ahab? You, O troubler of Israel. Yeah. The only one who was a godly man was called a troubler of Israel. And you'll be called troublers of America, and troublers of Europe, and troublers of South America, and troublers of Philippines, and troublers of Scandinavia, and Australia, and New Zealand, and Austria. And you will be called the troublers of your country. You will be called that. But they're blind, and they're being blinded by the prince of the world. Yeah. And just hold on for a little bit more.
Hold fast.
Because we're almost there. We can see the finish line. We know that we are completing that race, but don't give up before the end. Run to win, the Bible says. And when you run the race and fight the good fight, remember, look up. And look at Jesus, the author and the finisher of our faith. You know, our finish line of our struggle and our race is there, not here. So, you know, look up. That's why we need to look up. Any final encouraging words that you may want to share with everyone?
1 Thessalonians 4, the Apostle Paul talking to the Thessalonians, who, by the way, were very, very discouraged.
Yes.
And it was in the context of that blessed hope, which I think you would agree is our only hope, the rapture of the church. That's where he says that the dead in Christ will rise first, which should bring great encouragement and great hope to those of you who have lost loved ones. they get their new bodies first.
They pass you. You look.
Yeah. They'll get their glorified bodies first, then we who are alive and remain will be caught up to meet them and the Lord in the air. And what is so encouraging to me is what Paul says after that. And he says, therefore, encourage one another with these words. Okay, this is the last.
Yes. It's okay. We're
When
fine.
you have that to look forward to, it makes whatever you're going through easier to get through. Right?
Yes. 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 And you just talked about the Thessalonians and the First Thessalonians and Second Thessalonians, and remember that the end of Second Thessalonians is this. Just a second. Okay, so the end of Second Thessalonians is the solution of Paul with my own hand. The grace, he says this, okay, now may the Lord of peace himself give you peace always and in every way. The Lord be with you all. He's the Lord of peace. He's the only one that can give you peace. Don't bank on any peace plan of any country, okay? And so may the Lord of peace give you peace here and everywhere, now and forever. The Lord be with you. Thank you, and God bless you.
All right.